Chicago Cubs News Today.
What's up, Cubs fans? A new story involving the Chicago Cubs has started gaining traction over the last few hours. And look, today it's a double feature because we've got news about both the present and the future of our team. We're going to talk about a name that's emerging as a possible pick for the Cubs in the 2026 draft, a shortstop who's catching the scouts' eyes. And also about Cade Horton, that young guy we all love, who opened up about his rough spring training, and what he said will surprise you. Stick around, it's totally worth it. One thing's for sure. When it comes to the Cubs, there's always something going on. Here's one. 2026 Draft. Chris Hakopian and the Cubs. The 2026 MLB Draft is still a ways off, but the Cubs are already on the analysts' radar. And this time, the name linked to the team is Chris Hakopian, a shortstop from Texas A&M. Bleacher Report's Joel Reuter published a complete mock draft for the first round, and in his prediction, the Cubs would use the 23rd overall pick to secure the young college shortstop. It's worth remembering the context here. The Cubs pick in the 23rd position, while their crosstown rivals, the Chicago White Sox, will pick first overall, something the Cubs haven't done since 1982. In other words, the Cubs aren't at the front of the line, but they still have access to considerable talent in this range of the draft. And the Cubs front office has a clear track record in recent years. 5 of their last first-round picks were college players. An outfielder, a third baseman, a shortstop, a right-hander, and a left-hander. This shows a well-defined pattern of how Jed Hoyer and his team view talent development. They prefer more polished players with college baseball experience over raw high school bets. And when you look at the results of these picks, it's hard to question the strategy. So who is Chris Hakopian? The shortstop spent 2 years at the University of Maryland before transferring to Texas A&M, and his start to the season was promising. In his first 3 games, he went 5 for 11, including 1 home run. Numbers that immediately caught the scouts' eyes. The problem is that shortly after, he was sidelined with a back issue, and that's the big question mark surrounding his name. His hitting ability is graded at a 60 on a 20 to 80 scale, which in baseball jargon represents above-average talent, bordering on elite. If he recovers well and gets back to dominating with the bat, there is a real chance he climbs the rankings and appears in the top 10 of the draft. But if the injury persists or limits his performance, he could slide down into the 20s, which is exactly where the Cubs are positioned. The Chicago front office will closely monitor Hakopian's progress during the college season. For them, this scouting window is crucial. After all, remember, it was by betting on college talent that they found Cade Horton. And everyone knows how that turned out. If you're a Cubs fan, go ahead and subscribe to the channel to keep up with all the team news. Look, I know that when it comes to the draft, a lot of people turn up their noses. It's hard to get hyped about a player you've never seen play, who's in college, and who might take years to reach Wrigley. I get that feeling, but think about it. The Cubs' front office has shown they know what they're doing in this area. Do you remember when Cade Horton's name popped up in the early mock drafts? A lot of people didn't even know who the kid was. Today he is one of the most promising pitchers in baseball. And if you've watched the video we did here on the channel about the front office's draft history, you know Jed Hoyer doesn't usually miss in this range. So when you see Chris Hakopian's name tied to the Cubs, don't ignore it. He has elite hitting ability, plays a high-value position, shortstop, and is in one of the most competitive college conferences in the country, the SEC. The back injury is a yellow flag, yes, but a yellow flag isn't a red flag. It's worth keeping an eye on this name moving forward. To be honest with you guys, what catches my attention the most in this story isn't even Hakopian himself. It's what it represents about the Cubs' long-term vision. The team is building something. And when you look at the pattern of college picks, The bet on strategic position players like shortstop, the consistency in scouting, you can see there's a clear plan here. Of course, nothing is guaranteed. The draft is speculation until the day the player steps foot on the field. But I'd rather have a team that has defined criteria and learns from its own hits and misses than a team that drafts on feeling. And the Cubs, in recent cycles, have shown exactly that. My opinion. If Hakopian recovers well from his back issue and finishes the college season with solid numbers, he's going to shoot up the rankings, and it might be that the 23rd pick won't be enough to secure him. But if he falls because of the injury, the Cubs could be looking at one of those value picks that define generations. It's worth following every update on him until June. News TW. Cade Horton and the rough spring training. We are just 2 weeks away from the start of the Cubs' regular season, and one of the most anticipated names by the fans for 2026 is pitcher Cade Horton. After an absolutely historic second half of 2025, the 24-year-old entered spring training carrying enormous expectations, and the numbers so far haven't helped ease the fans' anxiety. Last Tuesday, against the Texas Rangers, Horton gave up 6 hits and 6 runs in just 3 2/3 innings pitched. It was a tough start to watch. Cumulatively in spring training, over 2 games and 5 2/3 innings, he has an ERA of 9.53 and a WHIP of 1.59. Numbers that, out of context, would sound like a red alert. But Horton didn't let these numbers define the narrative. Right after the game, he spoke to the press and got straight to the point. The spring training results aren't what matter right now. His focus is on the process, the adjustments, the preparation for opening day. And when a young athlete can separate the result from the process with this much clarity, it says a lot about the maturity he has developed in just 1 year at the highest level of baseball. After the game against the Rangers, Horton was asked about his performance and replied with a quote that sums up his current mindset perfectly. According to MLB.com's Jordan Bastian, the pitcher said, "Results can be deceiving sometimes. If I got caught up in the results, I would be pretty disappointed right now. The important thing is getting ready for opening day." He added that he still has a 0.00 ERA in the regular season, and that is the number that truly counts. In spring training, pitchers test new pitches, work on different sequences, and experiment with variations in speed and movement. It is a laboratory, not a final exam. And the context of 2025 reinforces this read. Horton was sensational in the second half of last year, before getting hurt near the playoffs and losing the chance to pitch in October. This season he returns hungry to show that it wasn't an isolated peak. It was the beginning of something consistent. The Cubs front office knows this. The coaches know this. And apparently, Horton himself has total clarity on where he wants to get to. You saw that game against the Rangers and got worried. I get it. I swear I get it. 6 runs in less than 4 innings is not what we want to see from a pitcher who is a centerpiece of the rotation. And if you follow the channel, you know we never minimize what happens on the field just to sound optimistic. But here is a question for you to think about. How many times in the history of baseball has a pitcher had a bad spring training and then been dominant in the regular season? The answer is, a lot of times. And the opposite is also true. There are guys who shine in practice and disappear when the game actually counts. Spring training is where you test, make mistakes, adjust, and learn. And if there is one thing Horton showed in 2025, it is that he knows how to adjust. The mentality he showed in the interview focused on the process, without letting the momentary result shake his confidence, is exactly the kind of mindset we want to see at Wrigley in April. So take a deep breath, fans. Horton is building, not crumbling. I need to be transparent with you guys. When I saw Horton's spring training numbers, my first instinct was also worry. 6 earned runs, an ERA over 9, and the season knocking at the door. There is no pretending that it is easy to ignore. But after hearing what he said in the interview, my perspective completely changed. He is focused. He is testing things. And most importantly, he knows how to distinguish what is preparation from what is a real result. That is veteran maturity in a 24-year-old body. For me, Horton's health in 2026 is one of the most critical factors for the Cubs to really contend. The rotation is strong on paper, but we saw last year how injuries can dismantle everything real quick. If he reaches opening day physically well and manages to repeat his level from the second half of 2025, the Cubs have real potential to put together a historic season. I am betting on his cool head, and I really hope that by the end of March, we are already seeing that dominant Horton we learned to love. That is it, fans, a promising draft in the future and Horton getting ready to dominate in the present. The Cubs are making moves on all fronts. Now I want to know what you think about this news. Leave it in the comments. Are you hyped about Hakopian in the draft, or is Horton's spring training? What is on your mind the most right now?